So my name is Kerrigan. I am customer engagement at Writable. I am so thrilled to be here. I am always very excited whenever I get to hear Kristina speak. So I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say today based on the videos that you have watched. And then I'm going to go ahead and pass that to Becky.
Thanks, everyone. Good to be here today and learn with you and from you, along with Kristina. Just really glad we can support your learning and also show you how Writable ties in. I am customer success with Writable. So if you have had a formal training, or perhaps I've met you through live chat or email, then maybe you've worked with us. Otherwise, thanks for coming, and it's great to have you all here.
And I'm Kristina Smekens, and I'm thrilled to be with you guys in person and troubleshoot and fine tune and help you as you're implementing strategies that you're learning both from the first day to test day workshop and also integrating those with the phenomenal Writable resources. So we're going to have a great hour together, and we'd love to know what you've tried in terms of strategies and what questions have come up or troublesome spots we need to fine tune. So as you have those, pop those into the chat. Because that will then really guide us so that this isn't a sit and get, and it's really a coaching opportunity. So I'm dying to know what you've tried and then also what questions you may have.
We also are going to be covering quite a bit of materials. As you know, you have the videos in the secret site in the Smekens and the Writable branded website. And then also for the next 3 weeks, Becky and I are going to be offering office hours on Wednesdays. From 3 to 4 Eastern time for anybody who has questions that would like to come in and just pop in and ask questions. And then we also are offering some one-to-one coaching if you can't make one of those times and you just would like to be with us one-on-one. We have that information inside what we have provided you in the secret site. Let me go ahead and jump to that document. The resource guide, now this is inside the secret site. And it's been posted there, but we also have the information for the office hours, the Zoom that you would use, and then the ability to schedule there. So that, Christine, when she gets into the secret site, she can show you where that's located. But this document is a living document. It will be updated regularly, and it will also include these lessons from parts 1 and 2, and then we'll do 3 and 4 for the next time. We're going to go ahead and go over to Kristina. And we'll keep an eye on chat. And I think the format is she's going to start off just a little bit of a review over the strategies from part 1. And then we will go over and talk about the lessons inside Writable. And anytime you have something you want to add, we're going to be watching the chat and letting her know so she can personalize this for you. So thanks, everyone. Okay, Kristina, it's all you.
All right. Well, we're focusing on parts 1 and 2. And because we have 2 opportunities to meet and coach, it makes sense. But more importantly, if they aren't reading and thinking, that's part 1, then they have nothing to write about in a constructive response, which leads us to that much bigger multi-text, synthesis, extended response. So we're going to kind of keep ourselves pretty narrowly focused on the content and the strategies from the first 2 parts. But should a question come up from one of the latter, that's fine as well. Okay, I'm going to share my screen because I want to just show you, I want to kind of do a review super fast. I want to review the content from part 1. And I'm wondering what you've tried, okay? Because this is where then I can coach through it like, okay, that worked, but this didn't. All right, try it this way. So that said, listen to the review and then be conscious of, ooh, I did that. Ooh, I did that. And how did it go? And do you have any questions? So pop that all into the chat. Okay, in part 1, we started with kind of the ultimate product, that multi-text, 1 sitting, simulated research, extended response. Okay, but where we focused our real strategy time was teaching kids that when you read, you can't be a fake reader. You can't just read words and think the words tell you what the words mean. We got to make sure that we're teaching them to pause the consumption of words and details and have thoughts. So a lot of part one was just how does the reading voice work? And then how to listen to the quiet whisper of the thinking voice to help you make meaning. So we talked about says and means, we talked about note taking, we talked about annotating, we called it YLighting. And then we went into how you don't just see a detail with your reading voice and have a thought. I mean, that's where it starts. The previous page was, I saw this detail, I had a thought. I saw a detail, I had a thought. But the questions on state tests are not based on a detail. They're based on multiple details and the putting together of multiple thoughts to come up with a much bigger inference. So the bulk of this first part was how to get kids to realize what's happening invisibly in their head and why some kids are getting the answer and other kids aren't. It's not that they're smarter. We just need to really break this down. But if you don't know of green reading voice and yellow thinking voice, then you can't make the inference. So we really focused in on that silhouette head by Rosalinder and the idea of putting thoughts together and coming up with an inference. So I'm dying to know what you've done with that, how it's going, because my guess is it goes well sometimes. And so what do we need to troubleshoot? We went through an example or two, and then I really kind of busted open this idea that in order to think or answer the different comprehension questions in the standards and assessed on standardized tests, you have to teach them which details in the text will help them. So if you're trying to figure out main idea, you look here for these clues. But if you're trying to figure out character trait, you look here for these clues. It's all about which text details to put together. We ended with some quick kind of multiple choice, evidence-based, classroom, climate kinds of strategies, bullseye strategies for multiple choice so that they stop just picking the first one that kind of looks right, but they read all of their options and pick the best one. The idea that we need them to find the strongest text evidence and actually look back at the text. Okay, so that was the focus of part one. So at this point, I'm going to kind of ask Kara, what came through the chat? What did people try? What questions do they have? What might they want to talk about? And then I've got some other things in the same vein I want to add to as well.
All right. So Kristina, we did have some great things coming through chat. And one of the comments was about how much they liked the green and yellow signs, what a difference that made. And I'm going to add personally, you know, my grandson, he's in first grade, and I asked him about his thinking voice and his reading voice. And he was like, oh yeah, the green and the yellow. And so I was like, yes, that teacher is using this strategy. I was really excited about that. Another comment came in that it said the students knew to pick up their pencils when the yellow card came in, for example, and they were amazed that in our quiz, the questions were more easily answered with the notes they made. So those were two comments that came in. Another one is, I like the YLighting part because most students want to highlight the entire text and most of the text. This makes them really think about why they are highlighting text. And personally, I wish somebody would have told me that in about third grade.
Somebody taught me all of this stuff. I'm telling you, it is like, as strong readers, we do these things. The difference is we don't know that we do them. We just do them. And so some of what these strategies are, I'm going to bet money as you were watching these videos, you were like, shut up. Why am I not just, I do this all the time. She makes it so easy. You guys, all I'm doing is putting a name to the stuff we do all the time. And that's what teaching is. It's telling the kids how to do what strong readers do. It's not someone smarter. Nope, they've just figured something out. So we're going to demystify it. Okay, I want to touch base on a few things, both to validate. Wow, so exciting, but also just to kind of troubleshoot and maybe add a little depth to it as well. I can't remember if the video I talked about the stoplight. But the idea of you go through the reading. Now I want to talk to those of you that work with a lot of ELs or special ed, and the idea that, hey, they need to have some reading fluency. If they decode so slowly, their thinking voice is not thinking about what do the words mean. Their thinking voice is thinking, how do you pronounce that letter? What sound does that letter combination make? So go through the reading with some fluidity, some fluency. So I want to honor those of you working on science of reading, phonemic awareness, and phonics. But then you go through that text slowly. It's a stoplight, yellow, caution, caution. Listen to the quiet whispers of the thinking voice. I think you need to honor that some of your kids who are picking up a pencil and it's working, and other kids, A, may not be aware of their thoughts, or B, when you raise the rigor of the text complexity on some person they didn't even know existed in the world, or a country they didn't even know was there, and they have no background knowledge, and they feel like this goes mute. So my point is, caution, slowly read just a little bit. And there might be a sentence, that might be a couple sentences, it might be a paragraph. Stop, turn this off, have a thought. And the thought might just be a gist in the margin, a summary. Okay, it doesn't have to be an amazing connection. It could just be in 2 or 3 words, this says, this means, I'm getting this. And so a really good summarization technique, okay? The thinking voice also sees pictures. So while you're reading, sometimes your thinking voice is making a picture. Teach kids how to draw the picture. In the margin, draw the picture. You know where this is going to be huge? Science. There's so much in science we don't understand. So when they're reading informational text on science concepts, they have to be able to visualize it and see it. Well, these words are what make that picture. So help me, slow me down. You know what else we need to do? Go through audio text and how we take notes and have thoughts. It said this, I thought this, I heard this, I thought this. So just be conscious that the stoplight doesn't get lost. Stop, you are distracted, right? Mute, and then go back and do some rereading. Read a little, think a little, read a little, think a little. I always put these front to back because you are either taking in details or you're thinking. Because sometimes what's happening is they're taking in details and they're thinking about lunch. What's for lunch? So this idea of, whoa. You are either reading and pausing the consumption of details to have thoughts, whether you note them or share them or just have them. But if you're thinking, this is a distracted voice, all right? So we want to be conscious of that. So I want to honor the colors and validate that. The whole idea that whoever's comment was about, they felt like the questions were easier. There it is. Drop the mic. That's why we do this. That's why we explicitly break this down. We make it so, I say simple, but it's not simple. It's a complex process. What we do is make it so explicit, concrete, visual, colorful, bodily kinesthetic. This idea that all that they can't stop doing it. Now, I want to honor those of us who have some kids, because we all have some kids who still don't hear. They still don't have that thinking voice. They've still got, I don't have one, I can't hear it. Okay, get them to just acknowledge, get them to feel the confidence of, yes, you do. Ask them if they've ever watched a movie before and leaned over and said, I know what's going to happen next. Or I bet, right there. That was your thinking voice. That's how you did it. You saw and heard some things and you made a prediction. That's an inference. Before the answer came out, you did it. So you do have a thinking voice. I think some kids just need that confidence builder. Okay, so good. All right, the highlighting, the YLighting was big for many of you. And Kara, let's give you an opportunity right now to show them this amazing feature of YLighting that they're adding into your writable assignments. This is so cool, you guys. This is exactly it, and how you're going to get them to stop painting text.
So one of the things that Writable has that I really was excited about with the YLighting piece is that in any type of reading that we already have in any lesson inside of Writable, regardless of what whether you made it or whether it's a reading that's already in our lessons, you can go in and do this YLighting. So for example, I just pulled this story up. This is a student's view inside Writable, and they are to read this writing, and they're supposed to be talking about why nature makes you feel in awe. That's kind of the gist of it. And then write a story about an argument about how you feel when you in your personal experiences. So the way that this works in Writable is that you can take the reading here. And for example, this thing says, from the majestic towers of Monument Valley to the stars painted on the ceiling of the Grand Central Station, awe-inspiring wonders are all around. So as a reader thinking of what Kristina is saying, we can pause and say, oh, awe-inspiring wonders are all around. You know what? That's true. I feel that way a lot. So I can go ahead and I could say, I'm going to highlight this. And I can also do my thinking voice about, it's true. I see things like this every day. I'm just putting this in here so you guys can take a look at how this goes. And then I can go on and I can keep on reading. Sometimes takes a moment to stop and appreciate something like the Grand Canyon or a clear starry night that can make you feel like a tiny part. And then I might say, oh, I'm going to, stop, pause, and a starry night. Yes, when I'm out camping, it is so dark and I see so many stars that I realize how incredibly small I am. So I can go ahead and just stop and take that little notation right there. So Kristina, I just wanted to show how simple that is, that the students have the ability to highlight something that they're reading. They select their color. Of course, I selected green on all of these, but they have these 5 different choices. They can take the text. They can copy this from the pencil over here. These are put together over here, so I can take the paper clip and then the clipboard, and then when I paste it over there, it'll actually give me the quote if I wanted to use that in my writing, and it'll actually show me what I was thinking about right here in Writable. So I just wanted to take a second and just show how that works in Writable. I think it's a pretty powerful tool. And again, it works in any of the assignments where there is a reading. So it doesn't have to be something from this class. It just has to be something that has a reading in it. So with that said, do we have any questions from the group based on what she said or just what I showed?
Here, I'll check for questions, but I would just really quick add on to your great explanation there that when Kara says you can add a reading, you can add a PDF, or you can paste in your own reading, your own text. And then also there is a way when Kara was in that notepad to grab, if students were color coding green for, evidence, they could just sort and say, I want to just see all of my green notes, or I want to see all of my pink notes, right? If they wanted to. So it's got some great features to it, and students pick up on this super easy, and they love it.
Yeah, I was going to try to see if I had any that had some different colors. There's one that shows some different colors. So Becky, thank you for adding that additional context in there so you could see on this Prince and the Pauper reading that I had 3 different colors that I used while I was YLighting.
Yes. Okay, so I want to point out a few connections to what that is, and then how you can use this piece, this Writable piece and this YLighting piece in the classroom. Okay, so your kids know now that they have voices and to listen to them. And so, of course, we can pick up a pencil and we can do, hand-based, paper-based annotation. But when we read off a screen, we don't want them to now just fake read. We want them to continue to have thoughts. And so that feature is going to just reinforce it, which is fabulous. But now let's maybe dovetail it into the whole idea of, after reading, You might have some comprehension questions. You could have them do the assignment of comprehension questions, or you might just want to have a discussion with some comprehension questions. What you might do is before they read, set a reading purpose. More specifically, ask the three comprehension questions. Ask them, how is the Grand Canyon described in this passage? Any details as you're reading and you come across details and it's descriptive about the Grand Canyon, your thinking voice should say, ooh, this is one of those. And it should highlight it and make a little note. It tells you a little more about what it looks like or smells like or sounds like. I also want you to be reading with the idea of what is the main idea? Yeah, Grand Canyon. That's a topic, people. That is not a main idea. So you're trying to figure out what about the Grand Canyon is this mostly about? So I want you to be highlighting possible details that will help you figure that out. Because I'm going to ask you these two questions when we're done reading. Okay. Of course, we're reading and doing quick checks just for basic comprehension, but those are two after reading inferential questions you want to get at. Now you could set that reading purpose before they read and assign each question a different color. The blue question, so they're highlighting details that will help them answer the descriptive question. And then the pink or the green, highlight any details that might help you with the main idea question. And then that really gets at what Becky said, where you could just go back to certain details in the text that will then support your discussion. They don't actually have to write a constructive response. You could have them have this up on their screen and we're reading, we're doing all of this. And then you say, all right, so the question was, folks, and then they start to answer it. And you say, what evidence? And they know, oh, those were my blue details. And so they click on the blue details and boom, 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 boom. They know exactly which ones and the thoughts they had about them because they come up in those colors. So this is a phenomenal tool to reinforce the YLighting we're doing on paper and transition it and that habit of a reader into the digital. So be conscious of that piece. I was thinking about that. Now I want to throw one more thing out, and this is again how Kara highlighted. And one of the comments in the chat that was earlier, and that was they're finally getting away from highlighting whole sentences, right? Painting whole sentences. You guys, you got to see the bigger picture that's going to happen. If we can teach them to highlight a detail, a word, 2 words, 3 words, a phrase, highlight a detail and have a thought. Even if they highlight 2 phrases, 2 separate details in the same sentence and have thoughts, those separate details then get merged with according to the passage. See, when they do write the constructed response and they do the evidence, the author details cite evidence sentences, they don't cite a sentence. But most kids don't know how to cite just the part they need. It's what they highlighted. It's only the couple words and phrases that they highlighted. So they take that and they merge it with according to the passage, the author states in the text. And then this, and so they link it together with a sentence. They create sentence structure, right? Syntax. It's a writing lesson. You got to teach them how to do that. But just this idea of it's only a phrase. And again, this writable piece, this highlight only words and phrases is only going to help support. You don't cite a sentence in a constructed response. You cite a detail or 2, but nonetheless, phrases. Okay, awesome. Any other comments or questions, Becky, Kara, that came in or you have? Otherwise, I'll move us forward.
Just a couple comments that they love the examples. And during part 2, Ashley tells us that there was mention of the evidence piece coming from the reading voice and the elaboration coming from the thinking voice, and the writable activity lends itself to that. So
yes. Yeah. Okay. So let's again think kind of bigger picture. I'm thinking now more part 2 of our training piece. Okay. So they wrote the first sentence and now they're working on the evidence and then the explanation of it. Okay. just in general. I know some states, some of our audience, this might be our first standardized test where it's read, write, response. Other states, I'm in Indiana, we've been doing it for years, kind of a thing. So I just want to kind of give you an inside secret as to what you might expect. And one of the things that kids get pretty good at quickly is citing evidence. They can drop it in. They can tell you their answer and they can give you why they think that in terms of, according to the passage, kerplunk. Okay, but where they lose it is in the explanation. And they're like, I don't know, I just know. It just is. And so it's like, it's metacognition, right? Thinking about their thinking. And so by doing all this work on getting them, to realize they have a thinking voice, but to log it, whether that's in the YLight window, whether that's in the margins of their text, whether it's on note paper, if they don't just note the text details, but why, what was the reason that they thought that was important, whatever it was, write that down, a little gist to yourself. This is how they then will be able to explain their thinking, because this seems so no duh to them. And it's like, no. Your thinking isn't like everybody else's. So you have to explain your thinking. If you capture this, they have something to go back to, whether you do it on silhouette heads or you do it, like I said, in margins. But the idea that this is how they're going to explain. So all of that grueling work of record your thinking, kind of like show your work in math, show your work, show your thinking, readers, because you're going to need it when you write anyway. And they'll have to add that explanation piece. I'd like to, Kira, give you a chance to show them. Well, let me do a quick review. Let's do a review, and then I want you to show them that strategy piece, the assignment that you've created to go with either RACE or MAM or whatever that full-on acronym might be. Okay, I'm in the part 2 handout, everybody. Part 2 is where we said, all right, they have to be able to write out their thinking. That's part of mastery, not just being able to choose the answer, multiple choice, but be able to explain it in thinking. And everything, this is where the colors, you guys, the color is so big, particularly EL special ed. They start to learn that the pink is the answer, but when they write, the first sentence they write is the neck is the answer. And then they go outside their head for the details, or YLighting, whatever they highlighted in green, but then the thoughts to explain it. So the colors become huge with this. And so then we did some strategies on how to write the first sentence, how to write the sentences of evidence, how to write the explanation, and even some elaboration. And all of what I shared with you was either through this lens of an acronym, MAM, RACE, or CER. Now, you don't have to use an acronym, you guys. The power in an acronym for kids is that they learn the organization of a response. That's all the letters do, is remind them of the type of information. But if you color code it, then not only do I know I have to repeat keywords and give the answer pink, I know where it is. I need to give evidence green. I need to give explanation yellow. And so this idea of I go neck, I go outside, I go inside to write, because I actually started outside, went inside, did neck to comprehend, to figure it out. So I'm all over an acronym, MAM, RACE, RAP. There's different ones out there. Be consistent on it, but you got to see what Writable's done now with that notion, the color, the acronym. Check this out. Kira, show them some of those examples.
I want to share my screen, and I want to go to also show them the silhouette, because I think it lends itself to just go ahead. We'll just go into that right here and show everyone exactly where these examples are. And so when you are in Writable and you go to explore, if you'll go down to a line item that says professional learning. So when you click on this professional learning tab, then it opens to first day to test day. So inside of here, and I'm in the middle school. So whatever your default grade level is set at is the assignments, but there are assignments for elementary, middle, and high school. I'm just in the middle to show this. When I click on this browse button, you'll see that we have the first day to test day part 1 assignments, and then of course, first day to test day part 2 assignments. So let me take a second to just talk you through how this looks, because you've done a great job, Kristina, summarizing all of this part session. So let me just show you how we summarized it inside here. So the first thing we have is on part 1, we have a video that we have of actually Kristina, one of hers, just a little snippet of the 5 steps to make the inference is what we talked about in part 1. And then we have a lesson using the silhouette. So if I was to click on this, I would actually see some additional details about this lesson. And then you can take a look, there's the video again, you can see the skills, the rubrics, the standards, the format, and then there's one prompt. Now the team actually went and put quite a bit together. So we have the video. They put the silhouette graphic organizer right here. So if you felt like you wanted to just have your students do that in front of them, this can be printed and this can be used. We also, inside of here, have this lesson plan. And I'm going to show you the lesson in just a second so you can see about this. But we took all of the information that Kristina said in her video, and we put it together so that you could actually take a look at what she was saying, what the steps were, the materials that she had used, and this is all inside of the lesson. Then if we go back into the lesson, we even did the answer key. So when you're looking at the answer key, you can take a look at this. You'll know exactly what should be expected when you do this lesson. So let's go ahead and preview this lesson so you can take a look at what this looks like. So as a student, they have a short text to read. So over here, and you'll recognize this example, imagine a half dozen students standing at the end of the street. It's a dark morning at 7 a.m. The students are huddled together. Several are hugging themselves. Others are jumping up and down. Still others are rubbing their hands together and huffing on them. When the bus arrives, one student hollers, "Bus!" All of the students run to get in the vehicle. So here is that writing. Then we also put a document in here, a PDF, so that you can actually see the information from Kristina's creating the 5 steps for an inference. Okay, so we have both of those items. Over here to the right, we have the questions about this. Read the short text about students waiting for the school bus. What season is it? List the relevant details on the green side of the chart below. Look for patterns of relationship. Determine what these details and observations mean. This is your inference. And then the team went down and we created a graphic organizer. So in the graphic organizer, you can actually use the text with the green, the yellow, and then again, the inferences is in this pink down here. So this is one of the sample lessons that the team put together. Again, they put the answer key together. So as you're going to grade it, they have the lesson of what it looks like based on the video information. This, if you decide you want to do it printed, which is completely normal. And then let me go ahead and show you, let me show you what it looks like as a reviewer. So then as a reviewer, when you go to look at the answer for this, you will find that here are your, not yet, starting to, almost, and yes. So this is how you can provide some feedback. So each of these pieces have a small rubric that goes with it, with the check, minus, check, plus, and then of course the check. So let me just stop for a second, because this was one of the assignments in part 1 that I wanted to talk about with the silhouette. Does anybody have any questions? Kristina, do you have any comments that you wanted to follow up? Becky, what would you like?
Yeah, so one thing, Kara, I think would be helpful is if you close this for a minute and go back to the collection. So we're excited. We want to use some of these materials. What would the step be? If I want to take this assignment and use it with my students, how do I get that assignment? So I saw how you previewed it, but I'd like that assignment.
Absolutely. So what you would do is you could actually just take and copy this assignment. Now there's two places you can do it. If you're previewing it and you're sold immediately, then of course you have the copy right here, but also you can do the copy assignment right here. Now, once the copy assignment comes in, you click manage it. And once you're in this window, this is where you have the ability to assign it. Okay. And so I can assign it to me, click next. I have my feedback options, and we'll be talking more about that as we go, but we have the feedback options, the self-review, the peer review, and then you can assign this to it.
So, you know what's awesome, what Kara just showed there is you also have the ability as a teacher, of course, you can preview it just like Kara showed, but then you can also practice it and show it to your students and get them used to Writable or how you'd like them to do this assignment by using that assign to me feature that she just showed. So you can actually try it out as a teacher, so you can see what the experience is for your students. So that's great. I think there've been some comments in chat that this is awesome. So yeah, really excited to see Kristina's ideas into Writable lessons. What else, Kara, do you have to show us?
I do. I have a few more things. So again, just so you know where you're at, explore, professional learning, first data test. I'm just going back into here. We're going to click in here. There is another assignment that uses this exact same model with the silhouette. So if you take a look at that one and we wanted to just scroll down to the resources, you'll notice we have the video, the lesson plan, the answer key. If I preview this one as a student, you will see that this has a reading. Again, it has the 5 steps. We have some different questions here along with the chart. So again, same type of review with the checks. And again, you can copy it from here, or you can go ahead and copy it from this view. So that's the first part of it.
Hey, Carol, let me make some quick connections before you show the second part.
Okay.
Okay, you stop sharing for a second. I want to make some quick connections, and what everybody has to realize is now Writable it's not just an assignment, right? Your instruction now has this review lesson piece. Whoa, that is so awesome. So them reviewing and learning, relearning, that kind of a thing before they actually start the assignment is fabulous. Okay, I want to give you a tip that if in your classroom, if you, like me, have a giant silhouette head and you've been doing this or you just draw some head-like thing and use, details in your write-on wipe-off markers, then that T-chart's going to be different, right? That's a different format. The colors are the same and we get it, but I think we gotta honor that they're kids, whether they're 8 or 18, they're kids. And so you're gonna wanna make a more direct connection between what you've been doing and what they'll see in Writable. And I think it's a super easy connection. I think whether it's elsewhere on your whiteboard or chart paper, what you want to do is simply turn it into a T-chart. And you want to show them that now you can do it like this. You could do it like YLighting, highlight, put your thought, or you could have a thought next to each detail. But if you have a detail, you better have a thought, because this is how it works. And then of course, the whole thing is you're trying to answer the question, but bam. So show them that connection before you just put them on Writable. Otherwise they might be like, where's the head? And then the head, it's a PDF. So they'll quickly start to see it. And here's what I love. I love the piece of the T-chart because kids can sneak on some details with no thought, but on that T-chart, you got rows. And they can't skip it. They know they haven't put a thought there. So that is a great kind of checks and balance. So I just want to add that piece. I also want to kind of add, playing off of part 2 here, that you could do the T-chart, do the reading, collect the details, okay, put the thoughts there, And then when they go to write the answer, it depends on how much you've taught. In part 2, we did a series of lessons just on how to write the first sentence. Like, it's winter, that's the answer. is not a great first sentence. It doesn't use keywords from the question. So if you've already taught them how to use keywords from the question, then their sentence should be, this scene takes place in the winter, or something like that. And that's all you expect is the first sentence. But if you've taught them the first sentence and how to write one sentence of evidence, then I would expect that in that pink box on Writable, that we're getting a sentence inference with repeated keywords and evidence. If you expect to, and you can't expect it if you haven't taught it, that's not fair. You have to have taught it. So everything you learned in part 2, these are separate lessons over days and weeks. But as you teach an additional skill facet to the response, now you up the ante in what you expect. So be clear in your directions to the kids. How much do you expect in our response? Because a lot of kids will just write winter. But if you're already 4 sentences into a constructive response, they have to know what the expectation is. All right, so be pretty clear on that. I want to address one more thing, and then I'll give it back to you, Kara and Becky, to show that other example. Somebody posted in there about an acronym. Which acronym, do you have a favorite acronym, kind of a thing? And you weren't necessarily asking me, but I want to give everybody a little bit of direction on this. There are pros and cons to all of them. I'll just rattle off a few pros and cons, and then I'll answer that question, okay? Pros and cons. Ma'am, for me, one of the pros is I want a 4-sentence response. M-A-A-M. Every letter has a sentence. And for your logical, very concrete kid, they get that. Race. Repeat keywords and write the answer. So now 2 letters, 1 sentence. C, cite evidence, you actually want 2 sentences, but it's 1 letter, and explain. I think kids get the acronym RACE and remember these letters better than me and my thinking, neck, author, 2 A's, evidence, me and my thinking, explanation. I think that takes a little more to do that. RAP, R-A-P, okay? Repeat keywords and answer, and then P is prove, and you don't even have a letter for explain because you don't want to add an E to wrap. That's not going to work. Okay, so don't do that. But just this idea that there's pros and cons to all of them. All right, so here's how I'd answer that question. For those of you saying, is there a favorite? Is there a better? Consistency is the best. So what? Find out what the grade levels above you are doing. Do that so the kids don't have to learn something new. Find out what the grade levels below you are doing. Is anybody using anything? If not, have a conversation. Because ma'am, everybody's like, what does that even mean? Let's go with race. But as soon as you explain it, then some people love it. So the answer is consistency. For the sake of the children, use the same acronym across the grade levels. That would be my favorite. All right, Kara, take it from here.
I love what you say, because when I think about teaching, you don't always talk to your other grade levels, and it's really important for the continuity that you do that. So I'm glad you brought that up. We had a couple things in chat that I wanted to bring up. One of them was that in the Writable assignment that I did show, the one that I showed with just the basic making inference and stuff, the teachers can also, because we have the ability, like Becky added, to act as a student, it's a great way to model that before you actually have them do it. So it's that first part, let's model it. You could actually model it on Writable. You've modeled it in class. You've modeled it like you modeled it. You can model it digitally. And so I really feel like that is a great way to use a Writable lesson. Then you can also take that and add these pieces to another Writable lesson or build your own Writable lesson. So I wanted to add that from a comment that we had. And we also had another comment that it says it helps establish those routines. As you said, no one learns something doing it just once. And that is so powerful, because this continues to tie back these skills back to the assignments inside of Writable. So the repetition is really helpful. And I really love how you made that connection back, and we went back and forth on that, because it's real visual. They saw it on the screen and now they see it on your board. So that's the next thing. So let me go ahead and share again. And I'm going to go into how we have taken the race and the yes ma'am and put those into Writable. So let me go ahead and click on that. So you can
be amazed. This is so cool, you guys. So
I'm so excited that you're excited. So here is the next lesson, First Day is Test Day, Part 2. So again, we have the video, and when I click on this, it's going to look exactly the same in that you'll see a little bit of an overview. The same video repeats itself. Again, we have our standards. There are 2 prompts in this one, and I'll show you that in just a second. Again, we're going to go into the resources. So you're going to see that there is the lesson plan. So again, this lesson plan takes you through everything that Kristina is talking about, including these 2 documents that show evidence versus elaboration with this format. And then this just continues with some more ideas on some scoring rubrics. So that's that one. And then let me take a look at this next one where we can see the answer key. So again, we've added the answer key here for both of the race and for the yes ma'am. So we've got both of those in here so you can see that. And let's take a look at this assignment. So the first thing that happens is you choose which one that you want to use. So let's just go ahead and say that I want to use this one. So I would click this one, and this is the one, and we talk about consistency that we would do. So here we have a reading. Again, they can use the highlighting, YLighting. They can take these pieces. You could, however you feel like you want to do that, teaching moments, like Kristina says, then they can come into here, and then they have the ability to fill out this organizer. Becky, what would you like to add of anything right here? I mean, it's pretty much, we kind of went back and forth on this, but I wanted to show what it looks like when we go into a lesson inside of Writable. And then we also have this for the students to see, where they can see the evidence versus elaboration on both of that. And then as a reviewer, same type of rubric items. Becky, any thoughts you want to add? I mean, they definitely look the same. As far as the formatting goes, with the understanding where to find your resources, how to preview, how to copy.
Yeah, I think just some feedback from chat is just appreciation for some of these lessons. And I know that Kara mentioned that our content team built these, so they look beautiful. They have the color coding that matches. But these sessions that Kara and I will be offering, whether you want to come to office hours or need some one-on-one support, we can also help you build your own assignments that use graphic organizers like this, or whatever you're learning and want to implement from this course. We can help you build that in Writable as well. So, you know, all these look amazing, and they are, but we'll show you how you can do your own as well.
And so again, depending on what grade level you have selected, you have the ability to see these lessons right here. And then again, part 3 and part 4 are here. They look exactly the same. So if you're working ahead and you're ready to move on, we're gonna go in deep on these lessons when we have our next coaching session. Kristina, anything else that you
go back to the race example of that, so we can see what it looks like, because I want everybody to see that despite my saying that two letters is one sentence, and look how they've accounted for it, you guys. See, RA is in one window, so it's like foolproof, mostly kid proof, right? Okay, and then the C has 2 separate rows. So this idea that regardless, but now go back and show them the graphic, or the second option, which had the ma'am in it, and it'll also have 4 rows, but now each row has a letter. So again, it don't matter, just be consistent. All right. And then as you're making your own examples, of course, that notion of those reminder tools are there. But the bigger picture would be to eventually you wean off of that. They've internalized it. So as Becky and Kara show you how you can do this with your own assignments, remember where you are in the first day to test day journey and getting kids game day ready, that at some point you want this to drop off and you want them to just inherently see, the question and a window. and they know, I got this. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do, and we teach ourselves out of a job. But I think these scaffolds along the way are amazing. This is just so powerful. All right. I got a little more, but I at the same time, I don't want to interrupt if you've got something else to share or if we have any comments.
No, I think we're okay with the comments right now. So go ahead and go on.
I was just going to add one quick thing, is that Celeste had a nice idea. She said you could add an S, so they spell check and they proofread, but also Writable does have a grammar aid feature. So if you do turn that on as a teacher, it will notify students of spelling errors with, an underlined word would be in red in their written responses. So that feature does help. So yeah, you certainly could add that S. It's a good reminder that you want students to be going back, checking for spelling and those types of errors, but we do have those automated, supports built in as well if you wanted to use them.
Okay, so now I want to back up and then make a connection and then move us forward. And I want to back up and say, as amazing as the constructed response tools are, they have nothing to write if they didn't comprehend and can't answer the question. So all the other, just the reading of the passages and the YLighting. So we don't want to just keep assigning and assessing kids. We want to give them experience with instruction in between. So they might just read some of these, even though it has a question, a whole constructed response with it. They might just read to YLight, because that's where your students are. But eventually you teach them how to answer those questions by collecting multiple details, putting them together to make an inference. So now they can answer it, but they only write one sentence. It's winter. It's not even a good sentence. And then you teach them a little more. And so it's baby step, baby step, baby step it. Okay. Which kind of leads me to the next piece. And this is another maybe insight for those of you who this might be one of your first years doing a read write prompt as a state assessment. And that is, okay, I'm going to turn myself kind of into a scale here. Okay. So the number of sentences that would be yellow, me and my thinking. Okay. So the first sentence, that was all me and my inference. And the last sentence, that's me and my explanation. Okay. And then the sentences of evidence. Okay. The green sentences. Okay. So initially you're going to get, just the me, right? And then we get me with evidence. Then here's what happens, because they have to have 2 or 3 pieces of evidence. We get me with 2 pieces of evidence. Okay, you see how there's more green? And that facet that came up in part 2 in our video, in our training, is this isn't going to be enough to pass. If we look at what kids are writing, there should be more student thinking in their response than author regurgitation. So if they do 2 cite evidence sentences, which they need to, after an initial me and my thinking sentence, we're on the way to game day ready, but we need them to add in. That's why they called the assignment balance evidence and elaboration. You need to add in that explanation sentence. Again, scaffold it in. So initially we're just going here, then we're going here, then we're here, and then we level it out again. Okay, so honor that piece. I think you also are going to want to talk kids through that in Writable, that first sentence, the race sentence, or the M in the first M in ma'am, that's their answer, but it's yellow. And they're going to be like, shouldn't that be pink? And okay. Here's the thing. It's all about my thinking versus author words. And so pink is yellow kind of a thing. It's just, the grand poopah of thinking. It's in the neck. So those little things trip kids up, particularly EL, special ed. They're so into the colors. Now where'd the pink go? So the first sentence is the pink. It's me and my thinking did this big answer, inference, and I'll turn it into a sentence. Okay, now I want to go one step further. Okay, so we backed up, just do YLighting. They have to be thinking. Okay, now we're working through multi-sentence response. Okay, the next piece we did at the end of part 2. In our handout, it was on page 9. Let me share my screen and show it to you. And it was the whole idea of adding in some elaboration to this. So I think it was on page 9. So this was, they wrote the, explanation, kerplunked in that final sentence. Okay, but then on page 9, where do you take them next? Now you take them to every detail they drop, every green detail they drop, they follow it with a yellow explanation. This is important because, drop another detail according to the text. This means that, and then the concluding statement. Do you see how much more yellow we have now? This is the magic to getting them ready for extended responses. The extended response should have even more reader thinking sentences than author restatement, summarization, regurgitation sentences. And so if you have some high ability, some GT, some just stronger readers and writers, and they've mastered the basic that I'm showing you here on the left of page 9, okay, the balance is 50-50. Now we're actually going to go unbalanced again with more reader thinking, and that's your pass plus. That's your drop the mic awesomeness that you'll want to eventually get to. They don't need to have more than a balance for constructed response. But in an extended response, multiple paragraphs after reading multiple texts, there needs to be more of the student's words and thoughts supported by the author details than just restating things author said. And this is that step toward that extended response with stronger, longer elaboration pieces. So I throw that out there for those who are ready, but it's all a scaffold. We don't need to elaborate if we didn't even explain. We don't need to explain if we didn't have evidence. We don't need evidence if we didn't have an answer. We don't have an answer if we can't even YLight. So it's a scaffold. It's a scaffold along the way. Okay. Other thoughts or comments, or Karen, Becky, is there anything else you want to show? We're nearing the end of our time.
Do you want to jump into the secret site, or for a quick second? And if you wanted to do that, everybody can see where we put these additional resources in case they haven't been in to see that.
Perfect. Okay, so just a reminder, of course, assuming you've been to the secret site for the PD, the video watching part of this will all look familiar. So each part, of course, has its own video and its own handout. If you're like, where's page 9? What's she talking about? Here's page 9. Download the handout that goes with the video. It's all right in there. But remember, each of these handouts has a secret site of digital resources. So here's part 1. So that whole idea of teaching them about YLighting, or teaching them about making an inference and using different resources, Scooby-Doo, all of this was part 1. And so you have lots of resources at your fingertips. Okay. You can always go back then to return to the course homepage to then access all things part 2, handout, video, resource, secret site is here. And again, if you're like, yes, I want to use race, this thing's going to be gold mine-ish for you. You need to introduce it to the kids, say all the thinking you've done. Your first sentences come from the neck. Your second sentences come from outside. Your final sentence comes from inside, or if you're using ma'am or whatever it might be. But again, lots of different resources. But we also want you to remember that at the top of each of these, in addition to your assignments within Writable, here's the course materials piece, where there's a lot of this kind of living document updating. And I'll let Kara, I'll let you kind of talk through some of, or Becky, somebody talk through those.
Sure, I can talk through that briefly, and just so that you know where it is, but we have the links to those assignments, and it'll take you into each of those areas that we discussed during this time today. We also included a couple help documents on if you need help on assigning it, or if you need to know how to give your feedback. We've provided those. Yes, Christine's highlighting that for us. And then underneath that, where the little desk is where you can attend our office hours. And the first one will be tomorrow. So we will be on this Zoom link, and that Zoom link will be in this resource. And, we can always talk and see if we can even get it at the top for just, that, we might pull that out a little bit more. And then there's also the link that if you want to work individually, or maybe there's a small group of teachers that are taking this together as a team and they want to have some time with Becky or I, that is that item. So both of those pieces are in the secret site. We also have the submit a question. I don't know that anybody even really realized they had access to you, but there's that submit a question where if you have a question and you're working through this, and hopefully now that you've had a chance to come through the live coaching, you'll have some more questions. This is where Kristina will answer you in a video. Back with your answer for the question. And then we also will have an additional coaching session. The next part of our coaching is going to be on March 2nd. So on our little screen here, I'm just going to put this up so that everybody can see it. March 2nd, we'll have our next coaching session. It'll be very similar to this one, same time zone. Kristina will be summarizing some of the work. We will be showcasing how we put it into Writable. We'll be answering your questions, and we'll be asking you additional items about how you liked the course. How has it changed your instructional practice? How has it changed you in your use of Writable?
Thanks to everyone for joining, and look forward to hopefully having you on the March 2nd live coaching session, and hopefully you can come to one of our office hours or sign up for one-to-one support.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.